Welcome to First Generation Gaming and our review for the recently released early access title called Trailmakers by the developers Flashbulb. Sit back, relax, let's take a look. We're going to break this review down into 10 separate categories: graphics, gameplay, value, audio, content, potential, replayability, social, technical and developers. But before we begin, I'd like to read an introduction from the developers themselves, so here we go. In the toughest motoring expedition in the universe, you and your friends will build your own vehicles to cross a dangerous wasteland, explore, crash horribly, use your wits to build a better rig and get as far as you can with whatever spare parts you can find on the way. Graphics, 8 out of 10. Charming, low poly graphics with a cartoon theme, very similar to another cool game that I'm currently playing called Stationeers. I love the simple yet very effective theme. It shows you don't need high-res 4K graphics to make a solid title. Big thumbs up from me. Gameplay, 6 out of 10. Building of simple blocks and parts that you find dotted around the desert. Snapping parts together is simple, effective, fun and intuitive. Once you learn how to rotate the camera in the correct position, you will build in all kinds of different contraptions with ease. A really nice simple method for building your creations. The campaign sees you complete simple yet sometimes frustrating puzzles where you have to jump over ramps to collect bolts. Some of the puzzles make no sense at all and seem virtually impossible, with the only way to complete them is by blowing up your vehicle. Due to some issues in the game, I found it hard to keep playing the single player mode as the build element stopped working for me completely. And what you will find though with Trailmakers in general is the only limit is your own imagination. And already I've seen some very cool contraptions made by the community, with it being different land vehicles, air vehicles, all manner of contraptions. Value, 7 out of 10. Currently priced at £13.49 with a 10% deduction on Steam. I believe is priced about right. Anything higher than this and I don't think I would have been too happy about it. A typical indie price tag, very much suited to the level of content and gameplay. Audio, 6 out of 10. The in-game audio works just fine with the music simple yet effective without being annoying. With little else in the game apart from the odd explosion and engine noises, it's hard to get this element wrong, which they didn't. Content, 5 out of 10. It would be unfair to give a full and final assessment on the content as it is in early access. As it stands though, there's a lack of content. The single player mode is an isolated trek around a desert mentioned earlier, completing simple, yet some of them can be quite annoying jumps to collect bolts. I can't comment too much, as I mentioned, I've had some issues and I've had to restart the campaign. I fully expect these issues though to be resolved in the future. Potential, 5 out of 10. Again, it's hard to say at this stage the true potential of Trailmakers. Although light on content, it's up to you to use your imagination to create whatever vehicle you wish. Right now the potential surely has to come from multiplayer with, I don't know, some kind of maybe battle modes for instance. Replayability, 5 out of 10. I've clocked up around, I think maybe around 6 hours of gameplay. I did find I was starting to get a little frustrated as I came across issues with my game save and had to restart the campaign as mentioned earlier. And with so little to do at this stage, I found myself getting bored quite easily. That is not to say this won't change in the future with more content added. Social, 6 out of 10. I haven't really toyed too much with the multiplayer servers, but I suspect this game mode should be quite fun. One thing to note though, the developers do put a message on the actual game itself that does warn you that low spec systems may struggle with 4 players all using complex builds at once, so it's just something to be mindful of, especially with the game in its current optimization. Technical, 4 out of 10. As it stands, there is clear issues with the overall technical element of the game. This of course is to be expected. The game is less than 1 week old, in early access, so of course you're not going to get a fully optimized game. With that said, for the most part, the game runs well, just needs some ironing out with the game saves and general gameplay. Developers, 8 out of 10. One of the biggest pluses any game can have, and certainly in early access, is how responsive the developers are. After contacting them with an issue in my game, they were very quick to respond and try to resolve the problem. Long may this continue, because as you know, anyone who invests in an early access game expects the developers to maintain the same level of commitment and enthusiasm. I feel these guys clearly do. So overall, Trailmakers, we're going to give it a score of 52 out of 100. Trailmakers is a charming sandbox vehicle building game that clearly has all the hallmarks of an early access game, as to be expected. With that said, for the most part it runs well enough, looks fantastic, with enthusiastic and responsive developers. With some content added in the future to beef it up, and of course ironing out some of the glaring bugs etc, you have a nice looking indie game. And at £14.99 full price, please don't quote me on that, it may change in the future. I believe this is a fair price currently for an early access title. And Trailmakers, I believe, has made a nice solid entry onto the Steam market. And for anyone who's a fan of the genre, I think you'll be spending your hard earned money well enough. For the rest, I would maybe hang fire and see how it progresses. An average but solid 53 out of 100, which we believe to be a fair assessment of the game in its current state, with the potential to be a very cool indie title. Thanks for watching First Generation Gaming. To help support my channel, please like and subscribe. Any feedback or comments are very much welcome. Thanks a lot guys, see you in our next video.